Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This one is going to be my Avatar fan commentary track for Book 3 Fire Episode 2, The Headband, as chosen by viewers of the previous commentaries. So, with this one, again, I'll just say if you want specific episodes, let me know in the comments below, whether it be from Avatar or from Korra. I need to know which ones you guys want to see me do next, because obviously the plan here is not to do every single episode just in a random order. At a certain point I'm going to be like, okay, you know, like they're the ones everyone wanted to see, you know, that was good to do for now. But anyway, for now, keep the suggestions coming in. But to get ready for the commentary, have your copy of the episode ready to go, whether that be the Blu-ray, the DVD, or an online stream of the episode. I'm going to stop talking as part of this introduction to the video. There'll be about a 10-second pause with no audio, and then when I start speaking again, that's when I will have pressed play, that's when you should press play, and we should be synced up at that point within a second or two to have the commentary work. So, have your copy of the episode ready to go. I'm going to stop speaking now, and when you hear me speak again, that's when you hit play. Okay, so here we are with 302, The Headband. So we're in early Book 3 Fire, the episode immediately following the series opener. So we've dealt with a lot of the initial sort of drama of the ending of Book 2 and the start of this book, and it's now time to settle down to the group being undercover in the Fire Nation for a while. Now, I know a lot of people don't particularly enjoy these very, very early episodes, in that, like, they always say that it's not the best, and that the reason they prefer Book 2 over Book 3 is because of these sort of earlier Book 3 Fire episodes. But I actually really like that the book has this section, that to a degree all three books of Avatar have these sections where we're not super plot focused. Like, Book 1 is kind of, for the most part, not overly plot focused. Book 2, as it starts, also for the most part is kind of like a little bit sort of, you know, here and there at the start. And it's the same here, except obviously we have the Zuko's story here continuing, and it remains sort of the side plot for now. But it's kind of just as interesting as it was in Book 2. In Book 2, at this point, we were dealing with Zuko and Iroh dealing with being fugitives from the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation. Now it's Zuko dealing with just the kind of awkwardness of being back home, and how does he deal with that, his betrayal of Iroh, how he feels about what he did himself, and so on. And then on the other side of the story, it's obviously a very fun episode, and also another sort of Katang episode as well. But yeah, Book 3 just has a great sort of atmosphere to it, I think, in all sections. And this whole bit here of, like, after Zuko's betrayal, you're like, what have you done, Zuko? You've been dealing with that for a few episodes now. And you see him going to the prison where Iroh's being kept, of course. And if he really fully committed to the decision that he made, he wouldn't be going here. He wouldn't be, you know, needing Iroh to talk to him as badly as he does in these episodes, and it speaks to the sort of almost guilt that he's dealing with over this, and the confusion in that, like, by the time you get to, like, episode 9 and the start of the invasion, he's really struggling with it, and he finally realizes it. But here it's him trying to get to that point of, like, he's still sort of uncomfortable, but he's trying to still explain it to himself what he's done. Enemy birds, great joke. And obviously this is prior to the group getting their kind of their disguises. I was about to say uniforms for some reason. But yeah, serious Sokka here, on alert. But here's the cave, and this is the cave where the dance party is going to take place in. After cave. And again, because, like, it's funny the way the commentaries have ended up going, and that, like, I've already done the Cave of Two Lovers, and here's another cave episode. Fire Nation disguises. cave hoppers, and Momodos. And yeah, like, of course they have to steal clothes from people from the Fire Nation, but they have to be undercover. Yeah, this is funny. You just see the group kind of rushing out there and just grabbing stuff. You wonder, like, Toph just walks by also and just, like, picks stuff. Like, did she just choose anything, or did, like, Katara, before they kind of left, go, okay, you head this direction, just grab, like, the second thing you see, or whatever. And yeah, this makes complete sense. Take the soles out. She's still sort of wearing shoes, but not quite. So, soulless shoes. And then, yes, Katang episode, so Aang has to be very impressed by Katara. And yeah, the one thing that won't blend in. You have to say goodbye to hair loopies for a while. But she gets a sort of Fire Nation necklace. And the group's Fire Nation outfits, I think, work really nicely. Like, it's always a cool thing to see the characters be in different disguises, at least for a few episodes. I always remember, like, Korra book 1, she has like 8 different outfits or something like that. Stay flaming. And this is great because it obviously links back to Aang's old friend Kuzan, who, if you've read The Lost Adventures, appears, like, you actually get to see the character of Kuzan in the story Dragon Days. And he does speak like this. And it's basically revealed that Kuzan's just a weird firebender kid. It's not really the way they spoke in the Fire Nation back then. It was always just Kuzan's weird slang. So they never really... everything Aang thinks he's saying that's, like, accurate here isn't actually correct. He just happened to have an unusual friend. And yes, here's the school aspect of the plot coming into play. And it's weird, like, I get the weirdness of this, of just like, what are we doing? We're in the final season of the show and Aang's going to school. But they play on such a great dynamic in this episode with what way are the children of the Fire Nation thought? The Fire Nation are the enemy in the war. What propaganda do they have going on to the point where they don't really have many people sort of betraying their own nation? Like, why is, like, basically Iroh and Zhang the type of characters the only ones who have ever kind of gone past it? Fire Nation colonies in the Earth Kingdom, that's a really nice reference to, like, Yu Dao and stuff like that. Wrong hand. And then, of course, Anji helps Aang out, or Kuzan as he's going to go by. And he's lucky the teacher agrees to this, because otherwise that the arrow would have been exposed right then and there. Because yeah, the colonies have, like, at this point, like, existed for, like, basically the core of, like, 100 years. Like, the reason back in the storm, I think it is, when we get Aang's backstory, like, Yasuo talks about sort of the approaching storm, why Aang is told earlier than 16 about that he is the Avatar, is because they hear about what's happening with the colonies back then, basically. And yeah, here is Anji and Hide. Popular kids. Hide looks way older than everyone else. And this is Shoji, I believe. Who looks kind of quite similar to Aang. And it's amazing to just see, like, how well Aang gets on with everyone, because he has such a fun-loving personality, and that while the Fire Nation still struggle with, I think, fun in general, they all sort of are attracted to Aang because of, you know, his personality. You did what? I love the animation there on Sokka. But he's learning stuff. He's learning stuff about the Fire Nation by being there. So there is a sort of valid excuse here. And us as the audience learn how kids of the Fire Nation, what they do learn and what they learn, and if it's accurate or not, which is important. And yeah, like you can say, like Zuko doesn't want anyone knowing he's going to visit Iroh because it would speak to like, oh, is he fully on our side or is he still siding with Iroh? And Iroh is obviously giving them the silent treatment at this point, which I like. You understand to a degree of like, Iroh finally got serious with Zuko back in like Lake Laogai, and it really helped Zuko to sort of like seemingly make the right decision, and like he was fine with not being kind of royalty, and that he might have a life outside of all of that, and then he was kind of pushed back into things, and partly because of like Azula's manipulation ended up siding with her, going back to his old kind of destiny and so on. But now you have this situation where Zuko's made the wrong choice, and I think the approach he's taking is that you have to figure out on your own like why it is that you made the right choice and the real problems with that. Secret rivers, tactics, they can all come into play. And yeah, it's just that like Iroh will talk to Zuko again once Zuko has sort of come to Iroh, not just sort of looking to explain his own actions away, which he's kind of doing here. Like, you could have joined me, you could have done this, it was the right thing to do. Yeah, I did what he had to do, but he didn't have to do exactly what he did. Yeah, and you can tell Iroh's very, Zuko has a ways to go. I love Aang just trying to blend in. He really doesn't know what the words are. But just the fact that, like, it's a little weird, that they have them all just turn to a picture of Ozai, read out this thing. It's all about loyalty to the Fire Lord. And here we go, Air Nation Army. There is no Air Nation Army. Aang knows this because he's an Air Nomad. But that's what they teach the kids of the Fire Nation, because they can't just say that they attacked nomads, because everyone would realize that they were in the wrong. So they have to justify it by saying that the Air Nomad had an actual formal military. And everyone else is kind of like, huh? Because they don't know. Because it happened 100 years ago and there's no airbenders around. So they don't know. They just assume that it's correct. Why would they be lied to? Fire Nation doesn't like dancing at this point in time. What? Dancing? That teacher has such a weird design. His head is huge. So moved by their love for the nation. March in place. At least the teacher's like somewhat reasonable, I suppose. That the teachers, like, as much as they're sort of like presenting the wrong information, like, do they even know it's wrong information? They're just doing their jobs. It's not we're not exactly in the Fire Nation military here, I suppose, is the main point to make. Yeah. Hide getting jealous of Aang talking to Anji. We'll see a little bit of that with Katara later on as well. So that's nice. And yeah, Aang is super impressive. You see he's not doing any bending here. He's basically moving as little as possible and just letting him hurt himself. Kind of the same approach he takes with his fights with Zhao, because I suppose this guy is very similar to that. And yeah, he just dives in with the punch, blocks it like last second, so he fully commits to that punch and just wipes himself out. And then he acts up. Which leads to one of the more humorous parts of the episode. Aang asked about his parents, who like he's probably never been asked that before, because just the way air nomads are raised, and that he arguably didn't know his parents. He's probably met them before, but doesn't actually know them specifically. But yes, Wang Fire, Sapphire Fire. I love that they chose Fire as their last name. And that he believes it. It's so over the top, but it really works here. Star pupil. And I love that Katara's really into the role as well. Coal mines. The Wang Fire voice is just brilliant. And it works. I love that it just completely works. And then meanwhile, the good part of Zuko being back in the Fire Nation is that his relationship with May is blossoming. I don't hate you. I like that dynamic, that's who they are. They're not Aang and Katara, it's not going to be super cutesy, but that's their version of that dynamic. And here's this look from May is pretty great. That like Ty Lee is, I think, too scared to even do something like that, but you can see that May is a bit frustrated by Zuko already, and I like that it sort of informs that May is the first to sort of turn against Azula, Ty Lee second after May, and it fits perfectly. And yeah, again, a lot of this is just like, oh, I'm trying to help you out, but I've also been spying on you, basically, to know all this stuff that I can use against you. And that's a whole part of this dynamic here of like, Zuko can't, in a way, truly be comfortable here because of the setup from Azula of she's basically lied and said that, oh, you were the one who took out the Avatar. So I have a feeling you know something about Aang and him potentially surviving, because Zuko knows about the spirit water and stuff like that. So Azula assumes there's a lie, and so if anything happens, Zuko will get punished and not her. Secret dance party. Yeah, the dialogue's very good here, constantly. I like that the group just gets completely behind it. It seems so silly. It is, but it works perfectly. And that this is this unique skill Aang has never really had a chance to show before, that he's actually a really good dancer, and Katara is actually quite impressed by this. So, very cool stuff. And yeah, apparently Appa's a pretty good dancer when he gets moving. We have a band, of course. I like the setup that they had music class, so some of them do know how to actually play music. And he calls them the Flamios. The music is fantastic here. And they just don't know what to do. Like, what do we do? Okay, we're here. We went along with it, but what's going on here? Self-expression, I suppose that's what they're kind of not really teaching in the Fire Nation. And Aang knows some of the, dances from the time. Phoenix Flight. The Camelophan Strut. And we have Smooth Aang here, impressing everyone. And I like that, see Katara noticing that. It's like, oh wow, I didn't know that Aang could dance. Great line from Zuko. Not how he thought it would be. That it's not the same without Iroh sort of there on his side. And I think it's right for Iroh at this point to not sort of offer his help, because if he offers his help here, it will just sort of help Zuko further sort of like, I suppose, explain to himself, like, you know, the decision that he's made here more than anything. And he realizes Zuko has to properly change himself before he can actually give him the advice to help him move down the actual path. The little bit of jealousy there, that's really nice. But yeah, everyone starts to get into it. And this is the point at which you realize, like, oh, it's like Aang sort of affecting this change within the youth of the Fire Nation. They don't come back to it, of course, because they really don't have time to once the series properly gets going. They haven't come back to it in the comics, really. People are wondering, will they come back to it in like Korra comics eventually, by just sort of showing us the way the schools are in the Fire Nation. But this is a great scene here. Just smooth Aang. He was really not smooth in Cave of Two Lovers, but here we go. Just like, take my hand. Super confident. And that they know that they can just do some sort of training stuff to super impress everyone, as if it's actual dance moves. And you know, everyone sort of stops to just watch the two of them as well. So this is the, as I suppose the fandom calls it, the Katango, which is pretty great. Very romantic. And like, look at those eyes from Katara. And people question this relationship. Meanwhile, Katara has had like one scene that's like in any way friendly with Zuko at this point in time, yet that's the main other like relationship thing that people are kind of questioning. You can see where the issue is. But yeah, great animation. And again, like they devote time to like a full-on Katang dance sequence, with everyone just noticing how amazing they are. But yeah, the Zuko side of the story, I think the word I was really looking for was like, it's almost like Zuko going to Iroh to sort of help him like justify to himself what he did, and Iroh knows that this is not the time to speak to him until he realizes like it's not about that, it's about learning what actually happened and changing it. That, you know, I suppose Zuko realizing himself, and not just like through Iroh sort of nudging him in the right direction, Zuko realizing himself the correct way to go. But I like that eventually all the kids end up assisting Aang in the escape here, because they really enjoyed what happened here and they don't want him to get in trouble. They obviously don't know anything about the truth yet, but they're willing to help. It's, you know, a slightly creepy moment there, but it just shows that they're all on Aang or Kuzan's side. And then here's the big sort of reveal here. He just earthbends on his way out. I suppose, you know, the way he did it, it's not entirely clear that it was Aang who necessarily did it, but, you know, just the fact that he saw the cave closed like that. It's permanently glued to his face. You taught them to be free. And again, they don't come back to it here, but you'd like to see them maybe come back to it and show what the school system is like now. If there has been that change made since Zuko's taken over to teach the true history of the Fire Nation. Whether that be through like showing an older Anji or Shoji like in Korra as we go back there, or going back there in the Avatar comics and kind of highlighting how they're doing now that we're kind of a couple of years removed from this episode. But yeah, Zuko's, I suppose, is one of his last sort of big, I suppose, mistakes. Is one of his last big hunt the Avatar moments here, hiring Combustion Man here to hunt down Aang. And again, this is where you see that like his sort of development here in the Fire Nation is very similar to his development in the Earth Kingdom, of like he has these like moments of like learning something, and then he'll take like a step back before then taking 2 steps forward, and that will happen like once or twice, and it's similar to what happened in the Earth Kingdom of like the moment with Song from the Cave of Two Lovers. You feel like, oh, he's learned something important there, but then he steals the ostrich horse, and what happens there happens, and you just see him constantly come so close to learning the kind of key parts that he needs to do, but not quite getting there. And it's the same thing in book 3 here of like, realizing some things as he goes through the, realize like what was it he said here? It's not how I expected it, and him not quite realizing, that it's because he made the wrong choice, but it's more of like, his frustration with himself over his decision making, which is in the end has always been revealed to be Zuko's sort of like weakness as a character, but it's all leading to him eventually making that correct decision, which starts in basically Nightmares and Daydreams, and we see actually happen in the invasion episode. So yeah, that was the Headband. I think a very good episode. Again, it's one of those episodes that I rate relatively highly, in that I believe I have this in my like second highest tier of episodes. Like I have this like as a B rank episode, not quite an A, but quite high in my B rank episodes. It's within the top half of episodes overall. So it's one of those episodes I don't really have much to really complain about. It's just not the most important episode. There are better episodes than this one, but this one is absolutely super entertaining on, I think, like all sides of the story. Basically, it has the romance, it has the sort of world building stuff with just being in the Fire Nation school. It's fun, it's exciting, and then you also have the more sort of intriguing Zuko parts of the episode, which just continue that amazing character arc of what is going through his mind, what section of his journey are we on now? Is he in any way close to turning back, or is he just going to, convince himself he has made the right choice? Which seems to be the case right now by him hiring Combustion Man. Still feeling the need to go and take out Aang, in part because of, what's going on with Azula, and that's the role that Azula is playing in that side of the story. Whereas, again, you saw a little bit of it here. The one key thing, the one super positive thing that's really keeping him here is the relationship with May beginning to go very, very well. And that ends up being the one thing he sort of has to temporarily leave behind when he makes his big decision. The one sacrifice he almost has to make when it actually happens. So I do really like the setup for like all sides of the story here. But yeah, they're my thoughts on the Headband. In the comments, let me know what episodes you want me to do next in this commentary track series, but also what were your thoughts on the Headband itself. That's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.